Hey everyone, welcome to Nom Watch Review, where we discuss a important moment in a major form of entertainment, movie, discussion, or let's say, I gotta step back a little bit, I apologize. Let's go ahead and redo that intro. Sorry guys. So, hi everyone, welcome to Nom Watch Review, where we discuss the latest milestone in film or entertainment. I am your host, Alejandro Cowie, and today, just to let you know, I am joining a little bit of traditional style New York meatballs, going into a great New York slice of pizza and some wings. But you know what? Enough about my whole hoarding amount of delicious food. Let's introduce you to our guest. We have Kenji.
How are you? Good to be back. Thanks so much for having me again. As you can see, I'm a big fan, so good to be here.
Looking good. And what are you eating today, buddy?
Well, I ended up eating a little bit earlier, but tonight I'm thinking about making myself some something called this Demon Slayer Japanese thing my mom brought me from Japan. It looks delicious.
Yeah.
You put it on your rice. It looks delicious. I think it's like egg. It's for chicken and egg, so it's like it's gonna be delicious. It's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm a little envious. I'm Demon Slayer too. Oh, that's another story. Hello, Carla.
Hey, what's up, you guys? Thanks for having me again. I'm a great fan. I can't wait to get into it, and I'll be enjoying water from my tap.
No, I don't feel so bad.
Not sponsored. Gum.
Nice.
Okay. So let's hydrate and dehydrate and keep your minty fresh. I like that. I dig that. Hey,
But now
hold
I'm
on.
blurry.
I got it. Was nice. That was refreshing. I appreciate that. All right. I'm sorry. I'm lame. All right. To the man, the myth, the legend himself. Hello, Joe. How are you doing, my friend?
Hello. Very nice to be back. I am a huge Spider-Man fan, and I have been since I was probably like 2 or 3 years old. I am drinking Monster to stay awake because I'm very tired. And I forgot food, so I grabbed whatever was within arm's reach, which is some Trip Mix that was on the shelf back here. So
That is dependable.
I'm enjoying tonight.
I like that. I dig that. By the way, I love your shirt, man. And I'm going to be every now and then.
I've actually had this for about 20 years.
Oh,
That's awesome, man. Great condition.
Whoa.
Joe's would be like, Alejandro,
It gets worn very rarely.
my eyes, okay?
Yeah.
What an honor.
Hey, that's a different.
Wow.
Okay, it's a different part. We gotta wait till we get past like 12 o'clock or something for that kind of thing. Be careful. All right, guys. So, I see a lot of excitement from you guys here. I love the fact representation. I see all the Spider-Man, from the swag to the background to just everything. It's great. So I want to start off with actually wanting to know when's the first time you were introduced to this film and the feelings that it hit you when it was attached to it when you've actually seen it then. I'm going to go ahead and reach out to Carla because I see a little excitement there too as well. Go ahead and start us off, please.
Oh, 2002. Well, it was released in DVD, and I had just remember my dad building up this entire surround system, like what is an entertainment system?
Yeah.
And he got a DVD, and the first movie we bought was Spider-Man. I remember just like finally sitting down with my family, with my brothers, and watching it, and just being amazed, like all the feels and ever since we watched the movie, it's been like my family's favorite superhero. So we referenced it a lot growing up, and whenever I watch it, it brings me back to that same moment. So most my scoring has to do with the sentimental value I've attached to this movie, obviously. So it holds a special place in my heart.
Nothing wrong. We got to talk about this one. Oh man. Okay. I dig it. Excellent. All right. Joe, I want to go to you, my friend. How about with you? What is when you first saw this movie and the attachment to it? I'm sorry. Go on. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah. So Spider-Man has always been my favorite comic character since I was little. I had this little stocking cap I put on that I drew eyes on, and I actually had the toys. They were little wrist things that went on. It had like a dart with a string attached to them. And you had like this little Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus little cutout so you could put up on the shelf and you shoot these little darts at them. Dude,
What?
I played with that thing. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, so Spider-Man's always been a part of my life. When I heard that this movie was coming out, I was super excited. There hadn't really been a whole lot of good comic book movies. I think before that I had seen Blade and maybe Spawn, like the old Punisher, you know, some of the stuff that wasn't really that great. You know, it had been made into a Hollywood movie rather than more of a comic book movie.
Yes.
So I didn't really have high hopes for it, but yeah, dude, it's, to me, I'm sure we'll get into it later, but yeah, Tobey Maguire is my Spider-Man. Tom Holland's great. Andrew Garfield's great in his own way, but Tobey Maguire is my Spider-Man. Not just because he's the first. He's my guy.
Right on, right on. Well, before I go into Kenji and my our 2 stories on the opinions, I want to go ahead and hit with the comments here real quick so we don't leave out the awesome guests we have here too as well, our audience. So Q, what's up, Q, the man, the myth, and legend? We always love to see you, buddy. He says Q in this house. He was my rating for this movie is a 5 out of 5. We have, I believe it's Karushi. Please forgive me if I butcher the name there. He says, go Spider-Man. Q, the first film definitely kicks ass, lots of action, and the acting was good, and the origin story was perfect. Also, Kristen Dunst was easy on the eyes. Kristen Dunst was easy on the eyes. I apologize on that, guys. Was easy on the eyes and was perfect as Mary Jane. Eva messages say, hey, my rating is 4 out of 5 for this movie. So there's like a lot of love for this movie. So that's always a good thing. Kenji, I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and tell us when you first saw this film and what your emotional attachment to it so far.
So this movie was essentially kind of like on the heels of like the X-Men movies. So like as a kid, I was just like, oh man, we're getting more of these movies. And of course, like for me, Spider-Man was my superhero growing up because he was, out of all the superheroes, he was the one that you could kind of see yourself being because he was a kid. He had the same kind of problems you did, like being late for school, you know, things like that. So I really like loved that I could identify with him. And of course, sure enough, when 2002 rolled around, like, you know, my dad was like, we're gonna go see Spider-Man this weekend. And of course it was opening weekend. I was like, yes, we're gonna go see it. And I was like one of the first kids in my class that got to see it. So like, there was like some bragging rights about it too. I was like, I already
me and Joe just
we
like,
both saw that
what?
piece of pizza and we're like, what?
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. I apologize. He's telling us a story, and I totally interrupted you with this massive slut. All right, I'm sorry.
It looks delicious, by the way.
I'm sitting there, I was like,
yeah, it totally does. Like as big as your head.
You know, I'm sorry.
Me and Joe were like, what?
That is a true New York style pizza for sure.
I apologize for interrupting your story about having the freaking
Careful,
like, oh my God.
All right,
I'm gonna do this one more time so we don't distract people. Ow. All right. Go ahead, please. I apologize.
But yeah, as I was saying, like it was opening weekend. I got to see the movie, and it was just it was a great fun time. You know, there was some things that they changed, which, you know, like at the time as a kid, I was like, meh. But now, you know, growing up, now that we're older, we're like, no, it ultimately kind of worked out in its own way. So like, but yeah, I absolutely just adored the movie. It was
cool.
Yeah, because Spider-Man is just a character that you could always see yourself being in the shoes of in a way. So that's why I love him. So. And this movie did a great job capturing that too.
Right on, right on. You know, see, I'm what makes me excited about this is knowing the fact that you guys have kept up with, you know, the comics in a sense, or, you know, or being really related to character. Because honestly, I was kind of blindsided by the movie. And given that I want to make sure that we reiterate or backpedal and get the popcorn bucket ratings from you guys individually by this, and we'll go into that a little later too as well. But yeah, it was the first introduction I would ever have to say that I fully got to experience or watch Spider-Man, because I had a comic. I got the comics from the actual. I had the comic, and I actually got the comics from the local. I'm trying to think, a local flea market, and I was just getting into it, trying to figure out what I liked, and I didn't read it yet, but it was Spider-Man versus Wolverine, or the introduction of them being introduced to each other. So to be honest with you, it's one of those things where now I'm like, okay, cool. I'm really, really interested, but not too sure. So when the film came out in 2002, Fast forward, now here I am, like preteen to teenager. I'm like, oh my God. So when I saw it on screen, it was like, okay, this is what everybody's hyping about. This is what a superhero looks like. You know, I can see why the comics are so great and the introduction to it. So that essentially was my thing. And I believe, Joe, you mentioned that this and Blade was my like permanent, okay, here, this is introduction to Marvel. This is what a comic book should be. So that was always like a big thing for me. But before we go ahead and I digress into that, I want to make sure we touch the points that a lot of you guys were about to make, but you held back a little bit. So I appreciate that. On here, going in here, let's go ahead and make sure I touch this so I won't forget about this. Kenji, what is your rating on popcorn buckets, my friend?
So out of 5 popcorn buckets, I give it a 4.
Fantastic. Okay. And Joe, yourself?
I'm going to give my rating, but I have to give a qualifier.
Okay.
I give it when I first saw the movie, 5 out of 5, 100%. I didn't think it could be any better. The second one came out and it was a little bit better.
Okay.
So if 5 is the best,
okay,
then the second one has to be a 5. So that means the first one can't be a 5. So it goes down to a 4.
Okay.
Like a 4 and a
Okay.
half.
I got you. Okay.
I follow. Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Carla, how about you?
5.
5.
I fell in love. I'm still
Okay.
in love. Listen, the feels that I got. 5.
That's at 5. Okay. Okay.
5.
I will
passionate
stick.
about it.
I like that. There's nothing wrong with that. And we'll go into defending our ratings continuous. Also, for viewers that happen to be new, our ratings can change at the end. Let's see if the defense and holds up. But by all means, I'm really hyped about this. Right now, I'm 4 out of 5. Only reason being is because I wish I could. I want to say 5 out of 5, but I'm scared that it's nostalgia, and I'm scared the fact that I didn't really know too much about Spider-Man at the time being. So once again, I'm not calling this a bad film. I just for everything in the call, it could go up. It's going to stay a 4 out of 5 right now. But to start this discussion even further, let's go ahead and talk about storyline in general. Let's go how the storyline held up in the film and compared to your expectations and how does it still hold up today? Let's go ahead, and I'm going to go over to Kenji because I really interrupted you earlier with my huge pizza slice fight. So please, sir, forgive me on that. And
I
tell
forgive
me.
you. It looks delicious. Well, as far as the storyline goes, like obviously, like I mean, they took some liberties with this so that it works for a movie. Like they took out. I mean, one of the things that I had a big gripe about was like how his powers worked. I kind of they changed some things which I kind of didn't really see eye to eye with, but of course now 20 years down the road I absolutely love it. It's like, oh no, it's great. But I mean obviously also as a growing up reading the comic books, I was always used to the Gwen character being the one that was involved with the Green Goblin and the Peter during that situation. So like to see MJ was interesting, but overall I thought it was an amazing storyline. Like I thought it was really fleshed out, despite it being like a 2000s movie. Like it still really holds up well, and I feel like that's something to say about the fact that it certainly isn't the visual effects, but it was and that really comes down to like the performance and the story, and it was solid, and ultimately that's why we love it still to this day.
Heck yeah, storylines are always good point. They are always a huge foundation for a lot of opinions, for sure. Carla, your opinion on Starly, what would you think? Opinion, please.
From the first time that I watched it until now, I realized like, oh, this is about Mary Jane. Like it's about a girl. Like everything that drives him to become Spider-Man in a sense was to appeal to her. He enters the contest because of the girl, and then after that was the pivotal, like, oh, trying to get revenge and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that was like not as strong as I was like, oh, this is just like coming. I don't know. I'm like wording it horribly, but
okay, you gotcha. Keep going. We're still with you.
It's
all right.
not like superhero defend the world until later on, and I guess that's
you say his motivation is like love, like essentially, right? That being, that thing, it's motivated by something that heartfelt.
Well,
right?
It's like a whole trajectory from start to beginning. He's like a boy. He wants to get the girl's attention, but obviously it's not all about that. He realizes that with great power. Oh my God, I think I just got it. I'm just Oh, it's not about MJ.
Oh,
fuck.
no.
Oh, no.
No, I got you.
It plays out well. It's a simple enough storyline that it's easy to follow, and anyone who might have not liked Spider-Man before, if they watch this for the first time, they're like, okay, I can see it. That's it.
No, okay, cool. No, there's nothing wrong there. Excellent. Joe, before I go into your and I opinion real quick here, I'm going to hop in the comments real quick. Let's see here. Evan mentions, I love William Dafoe as the evil. I saw the 90s cartoon, which was okay. Same as the second one. It's 5 out of 5 for me too. Going to additional comments here. Let's see here. Q says, my dad got me into comics. He read both DC and Marvel, but he liked Marvel more because one of his favorite artists for Marvel was Steve. Is it
Ditko?
Ditko, thank you. He was also a big fan of Jack Kirby. Right on. Excellent. Joe, I'm gonna go ahead and hop to you, my friend.
Storyline?
Yes, sir.
I really do like the storyline. It feels very comic booky. It's not one particular storyline. It draws a little bit from, a lot of different eras and a lot of different comics, Ultimate Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man. I will be the first to actually come out and say I wasn't a fan of the organic webbing in the beginning. The fact that he did not have web shooters.
Yeah.
I remember them saying it was because they felt that was a little too unbelievable for a high school kid to have this military grade invention, tensile strength of steel that he just came up with in his garage. Yeah. And I get that. That was fine. I wasn't a fan of the organic webbing. I really love that in the new movie, they addressed that. And it is just an alternate universe thing. Yeah. They actually talk about it. So I'm totally fine with it now. Yeah. But yeah, I really did like the storyline. I like the storyline a lot.
Excellent. Once again, newbie coming in here. When it comes to the storyline, in regards to the film watch, I just thought it was very classic. A good way to keep attention. It was simple, yet as all three of you mentioned, there seemed to be a little bits of here and there to keep your interest in other characters that I thought it was delivered pretty well. To me, as at that age, Kenji, you mentioned before, you'd be very relatable to this character, or as he goes on in life and to be who he is. It just from the whole boom, super duper, what do you call it? He hit puberty super fast, getting back into the storyline, to being motivated by love in the first place, to we'll go into more of it, into the fighting scene in the cafeteria. I mean, all these little nuances here to me, as at that time of day and age, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is what I want to live. That kind of thing. And I always thought it was very, very wholesome. The storyline, and I think Stan has said it many times, the point of this character was to relate to the average youth, to be out there, the life is scary. So and Joe, I was when you mentioned that it was a little bit of everything, in part different comics and approaches to the storyline for here and there. I just discovered that out last week. I had no idea. I was, because like I said, I'm a huge newbie when it comes to comics, but I'm a huge fan of them on screen. So I get these opportunities to, when a movie is highlighted, I can be, I get greedy. I'll go ahead and get to gobble all the comic book information I can. And honestly, I was nerding out. I was like, you got to be kidding me! I didn't know that they literally just put parts and pieces together. It just felt like it was a very smooth transition of story delivery. So I definitely have to agree with you there on that for sure. Let's go on to the next thing here. And excuse me, I want to make sure I got this outline correct. So directing wise, I believe, let's go ahead and talk to Joe. I know we just talked to you a little bit, but I have a feeling you're going to have a good opinion on this. For the directing
Sam
of the
Raimi.
film,
Of course I do.
I was gonna say, what's your opinion directing? Do you believe, obviously I know you had a great opinion of the film itself, but was directing part of the reason?
Well, I'm a huge Sam Raimi fan in general, just because I'm a horror lover. So I mean, even from Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Drag Me to Hell, I love Sam Raimi. So
Drag Me to Hell's so good.
I already had an affinity for his directorial style. His little Easter eggs, Bruce Campbell being in everything he does, his fucking car, his car being in everything he does,
He's always in everything.
Just the way he directs it. I've always been a fan of how he directed things, and without going over the top. That's one of the reasons I'm really excited to see the new Doctor Strange. I've heard that it's a very Raimi movie, and I'm super excited to see that happen. But yeah, I love Sam Raimi, so there's nothing I can say bad about how the movie was directed. You know, I love every minute of it.
Right on, right on. Okay, Kenji, I want to shoot over to you, my friend. What's your opinion with the directing and the style?
I feel like this movie as a whole was one of the first movies that got me as a kid to really notice like the directing of a film, like what the director does in a film. Like I really got involved with the making of DVD of this, and I loved watching all the interviews with Sam Raimi and how he would how to explain this thing. I love that, like when they're interviewing the cast, it's like Toby was like, I don't think I read a comic book prior to casting. Kirsten Dunst was like, do I look like someone that read comic books when I was a kid? Absolutely not. And then it goes to Sam Raimi. He's like, yeah, I was reading those comic books ever since I was a little kid, you know. And like I had it painted on my wall. And it's like he was like, first of all, he was already so perfect, you know, with the right mindset and the love for the character that this movie needed. So that was great. But also like it really did help me like introduce me to his other body of work, like Evil Dead. And I really do think he has a unique like vision and a unique style. Like he's able to like find something that's inherently evil and dark, but he's still able to find like, but you got to admit, this is also kind of ridiculous and hilarious at the same time. And like the fact that he's able to do that, whoa, my camera. The fact that he's able to do that is just has that ability is like, I think is phenomenal. I think he has a great vision. And like, you know, like Joe was saying, like, I'm excited for this Doctor Strange movie because Raimi directed it. Like, I mean, he's excited to see how he does things. I'm personally like, where's the Buick? Where's the Buick?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. That's true. That's true. Hashtag where's the Buick?
Hashtag where's the Buick?
Right on. Okay. Fantastic. All right, Carla, I'm going to shoot up to you. What is your opinion?
So I believe that this would be my first Sam Raimi movie because I just turned 9 years old when Spider-Man came out. Yeah, so I wasn't really old enough to watch Evil Dead or, you know, like I just wasn't. But after I loved it, I was like, who is this? He does scary movies. And then I grew to know his style. And looking back at Spider-Man, some of these choices were a little like over the top, you know, when Peter is thinking about getting Mary Jane. And so there's like costume idea, all overlapping each other. And you're like, oh, that's campy as shit. I love it. But it's like, I didn't think so that back then. But I loved it. I think it's great for it to be done like that. I'm glad that he did it. And the fact that he's coming back to the MCU it's even better. So no complaints there.
Excellent. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I said, this is one of the areas I'm unexperienced in. But the funny thing about it is I'm gonna come out and say it. I didn't realize he was the director of Time Cop, and I am into that cheesy movie and Van Damme.
Oh yeah,
I'm ready to go, man. Oh my God! So the fact that he was in Time Cop, the fact that he was going into things like Don't Breathe. I mean, like all the Evil Dead things you were mentioning before, Joe. There's a lot of movies that I have obsessed over and watched repeatedly for like months and then forgotten. But the fact that he was the director makes so much sense. On that note, yes, I do believe a lot of things were overdone or campy-ish, but the way he did them made them so believable, or made like, that was that, I liked it, or like, you know, that's great. You know, it's one of those things where, Kenji, you mentioned out right off the bat, you're like, oh, how horrible dark, but this is kind of funny. And then Joe, the fact that every freaking movie you have mentioned, there's some form of, let's say, grotesque or over the top like attachment, but it's delivered so well, or it's just so hilarious in a sense when you see it. So, I mean, honestly, going back to it being someone that's unfamiliar, if you were to told me that was who directed right off the bat, okay, cool. I wouldn't thought about it, but if you told me what he directed movie wise, I'm like, yeah, immediately fanboying over it. So, I do like a lot of Marvel references. I'm huge into a lot of Marvel characters now, but the fact that, seeing what he's directed in the past and now that he's going to the new Doctor Strange film, okay.
Yeah.
I might want to jump at that movie a lot sooner than I thought. So you guys enlightened me a little bit. I appreciate that. Okay, we have to start off this. I'm going to definitely start with you on this, Joe. Casting, my friend. Oh my God! Before I start fanboying, what did you think about the casting?
Like I said earlier, Tobey Maguire is my Spider-Man. He's just enough sarcastic in the suit, cocky in the suit, which kind of like makes, I can relate to that because when I cosplay and I wear a mask, I can be cocky as hell, but otherwise I'm just kind of like nerdy little dude. It was the exact same thing. He's this nerdy little school kid, but when he puts a suit on, he can be a smart ass, because nobody can see his face. I totally love that. Willem Dafoe, obviously, for Green Goblin. I wasn't a fan of the suit because it's just so different than what the comic suit looks like, because it's armor and it's a helmet rather than like a mask. But that would have been hard to do in a movie. So I kind of forgave them for that. I don't really like Kirsten Dunst as MJ, but it is what it is.
Producer Steph agrees with
That's
you.
when I first watched it. Now looking back, she's MJ. It's just, but that's like a nostalgia thing. I wasn't a fan of her casting in the beginning, but I'm okay with it now.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
Joe,
yes.
Who would you have cast for MJ back then? I'm curious.
Well, let's see. That would have been.
I'm interested.
I'll let you think about it. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who would have been the appropriate age in 2002.
Here. Joe, think about that.
Yeah, let me think about that.
I'm curious because, from somebody like cast-wise, for you, what do you think about the casting? How was it? Was there anybody that stuck out the most? Obviously, when it comes to character Spider-Man, but was there anybody else that would really catch your eye, particular?
No, right off the bat, Tobey. He seeing him was like pushing me into a pool of puberty. I was like, oh, that is a man. Whatever that is, I am here for it. Yes. And then growing up and then watching it again, I saw Kristen, and when the rainfall scene.
Yeah.
You know what they were doing with that see-through shirt. They know what they were doing. So, casting her, I agree. Willem, how scary. So. He was a scary human being when I first saw him. So I'm like, oh, he's good. He's scary. He looks like a psycho. I have no objections.
James Franco was kind of an odd choice because I never saw him as that serious kind of character. I forgot about him.
He was an unknown to me. It was weird seeing him in funny things.
I would have go to after.
Oh,
okay. Well, that's right. He was a major comedic figure, isn't he? Essentially.
Didn't he just also do Freaks and Geeks at that point?
I was Kenji. Question. Yes, and also, what do you think in casting in general? Starting off with, if you want to, James Franco, but yes, I believe Freaks and Geeks. He was that was his. Was it kind of like his, not necessarily starting point, but a major.
Also, my favorite Aunt May.
Yes.
That's my favorite Aunt May. That's it. So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip over you, Carla.
No, you did it. I was like, but Aunt May. This movie holds my favorite Aunt May.
Oh, for sure. It was Rosemary Harris, I think, as Aunt May. Yeah, I think she was a phenomenal, Aunt May, and of course, obviously, we ended up having that whole Aunt May Benjamin buttoning through the MCU, but. But I will say that at the time as a kid, the only issues that I used to have, and it's still kind of an issue now, is that Tobey was 30 when he did the movie, and so he was supposed to be like an 18-year-old
he was 27 or 28, I believe.
That's still 10 years older than a high school kid. Is the point. And that was one of the biggest scenes that made it apparent to me was, and it took me out of the film ever so slightly, was when he when it's the second time he misses the bus and the banner sticks to his hand and he rips it off. He has the worst 5 o'clock shadow that I've ever seen in my entire life. And even I was as a kid going, he's really old and has a really thick beard. But other than that, but also I thought he was a great Peter Parker. like, and that's the thing. Like, I can go through this whole thing about things. Like, I think that Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker. I wasn't sure about his Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield, not a great Peter Parker. Thought his Spider-Man was great. Tom Holland's a nice little in the middle. You know, he's like little Goldilocks in the Three Bears moment. But as far as like Peter Parker was concerned, like I thought he understood the character phenomenally, and he did a great job. Willem Dafoe, what a tour de force in acting! My God, what an amazing actor. And I will say, I really wish that they'd gone with the old animatronic mask that they had constantly.
I've seen that.
Because it really would have shown off his acting range a lot more. Because I hated that they put him in that tin can, because he has such amazing range. Like the scene with the mirror, just amazing. Like I thought everyone was great. Like Kirsten Dunst, I just remembered her from Jumanji. So as a kid, I was like, oh,
Interview with the Vampire.
So, like,
oh yeah.
Like, so for me, I was like, that's the face I recognize. So,
right on.
But so like I thought the cast, but overall though, like I mean, I don't think anybody could really look back and I don't know who else I would have cast really back then. Like even
I can't think of anybody. I can't think of what would have been appropriate at that time. Right now, it's 20 years ago. I can't even.
I know that James Franco had originally auditioned for Peter Parker.
Yes,
and so did Leonardo DiCaprio at one point, apparently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but
and you know that's the thing too as well. Coming into this now, thinking about it, the reason why I wanted to get you guys' opinions before I fanboy over this, maybe it's nostalgia, but my thing was Tobey Maguire. That was my first introduction to Tobey Maguire ever. I had no idea who this person was, and now he came across the screen, and I thought he was very believable. Kristen Dunst, I had the hugest crush on her ever since Interview with the Vampire, when she was a psychotic, killing, young, immortal living younging. So when it came to her, I was around the same age, and I was like, she's a hottie. So for the longest time, I guess it was more of like that concept. William Dafoe, I recognized him from going into, the Boondock Saints. When it came to Boondock Saints, he was my chaotic form of justice. So having him to be a chaotic form of any tour de force was like, okay, this is him, who he is in general. James Franco, my thing with him was I remembered him from rom-coms. I was always like, okay, cool, like he's the guy that's there. And I was like, all right, rom-com guy. And I just thought it was kind of just natural for him, being that one person, to have a crush on the same girl he did eventually in the long run. Not saying it was evident in the film per se, but to me, I just felt like it was going to come across pretty quickly. I will say though, I have to mention, like you said, I wasn't going to mention Aunt May, but she was perfect, by the way, Carla, so you're totally accurate on that. But I want that to say all day long that my big things with these film were J.K. Simmons and a little bit of Joe Manganiello going and being Flash Thompson. It's just that to me, those two men didn't have much lines per se. They had lines, but not much lines per se, but it was like a smack in the face seeing them. I just cannot think of other characters who I relate with comic book or associated characters that I would consider minor characters that I associate immediately with the actor. And like I said, they're just minor roles, but to me, the whole cast, I felt as if it was just like some characters or some actors I didn't even know of until I watched the film. So I guess I would say who else I would cast, I can't really say anything per se, because at that time, my mind was so infatuated with what the characters were. This is my Spider-Man, this is my Green Goblin. I can't think of any other character per se. So I guess that I would have to say I can't think of anybody else to cast. But maybe it's just my nostalgia. So I still gonna have to go and say casting still 5 out of 5. I'm not the biggest fan of Franco right now, but I mean I cannot deny him at that character time being. So but let's go ahead and make sure I don't digress too much in my nostalgia, and we're going into, let's say, to me, I'm going to start off and say the acting in this was, at the time, in my opinion, different. Now, thinking about it and seeing it, I will say I still say it's a little cheesy, a little campy, but once again, thanks to directing and the delivery, I don't think the film would be the same without it. I mean, I like the cheesy looks. I like the direct camera concept. I like the, looking from the distance ominously, like, oh, I'm going to get you. To me, it was that was me. I enjoyed it.
Comic booky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I felt that it was, in my opinion, you have, and a lot of, it's not just mine, of course, but you have stage acting, theater acting, and movie acting. And I felt as if this was almost a great combination to explain what comic books are and how they relate to life, and yet bring them out a little bit larger than life, because we read them larger than life as a kid. So seeing this film be very, very, I guess, animated to me was like great. But before I ramble into it, Carla, what did you think yourself when it came to the acting characters?
Oh, the acting?
Yeah.
I thought it was beautiful. When I saw Tobey Maguire cry when Uncle Ben died, I was like,
oh.
he is hurting.
Oh,
I felt it in my core. Kristen, when this one that sticks out to me, when her boss is telling her that her register was short, that she was short, and she's like, okay, Enrique, I get you. I thought that was funny. Like, and there was some moment of authenticity in what they were saying. At some points it was a little overacting, or just plain cheesy. You know, the famous line, I'm somewhat of a scientist myself. I was like, people don't really say that, but I liked it. Loved it. I love it.
Very fun. Excellent. All right.
Like you said, without it, it wouldn't be what it is. So
yeah, still stand pretty hard by that comment. Of Joe, what's your opinion, my friend?
It was a little bit over the top, but I think it was appropriate. Like I was saying, it felt more like a comic book. Up until then, most comic book movies I had seen, you know, the old Punisher with Dolph Lundgren, The Crow,
God.
Blade, Spawn. All these comic book movies were dark and they were R-rated and they were dismal and, you know, dimly lit, and it was always raining, and, you know, they're almost all like that. This one felt more like a comic book. It was brightly lit, it was colorful, you know, the lines were ridiculously over the top, which that's how comic books are written. So it was the first comic book movie that I can remember actually feeling like a comic book. So I'm totally for it. It was over the top, but I think it was appropriate.
Yeah, right on. Kenji.
I'm right there. You know, it's like, you're not going to get Hamlet really when you see this, you know, like it's not going to be like the most amazing performance that you're going to ever see ever. But with that being said, though, the performances that we got worked and attributed really well to the world that Sam Raimi was trying to convey to us. You know, and that is the fact that it's kind of like this over the top, kind of campy, and then sometimes downright goofy world. So like, I actually, you know, so it's like as individually, they're not fantastic, but when you look at the overall like the greater picture, it works beautifully. Like it's like puddle scum. Like if you look right up to it, it looks really gross, but when you see the whole pond and the forest for what it is, you know, you realize it's a detail that requires it for the beauty.
Dig that. I didn't expect that comparison, man. That was slick. I like that.
Metaphor.
I feel like it was like the first comic book movie that was made for comic book fans rather than a comic book story that was adapted for movie fans. You know, where they tried to take the campiness and comic book out of it. Yeah. Some of those other movies so that a mainstream audience would enjoy it. I think this one, it came late enough that the fans of the actual comic book were old enough to enjoy it. So I think it was one of the first ones that was made for comic book fans. And I think it kind of paved the way for the Avengers and X-Men and Fantastic Four and everything that just got bright and colorful and campy and
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Joe. I mean, think about it. Like other movies, the CGI attempts, the practical effects, those typically can't be accomplished if someone doesn't take the attempt first to do something or to go ahead and, because like if you think about it, it was made for comic book fans, just like you said. But in the regard of the fact that yes, it had to be attempted this way with a practical effect. Now we know what it looks like, you know, and not only do we enjoy that, but at the same time, because I mean, to me, there's a lot of things that I like in regards to the cafeteria fight. I still thought it was awesome the way he caught everything on the tray.
That was practical. Did you hear that?
Yes, that's the crazy thing.
He actually had to keep doing that over and over until it actually worked. There was no
what was the number? It was like
as a background actor, I would have just been driven nuts. You're telling me that I'm on set 14 fucking hours because we have to fucking catch the track.
Dude, that's no joke too, man. I mean, sometimes you hit like 17 hours, 18 hours in set. So to know, and that's just like for stuff that's not practical effects when you're just filming things just to go ahead and get filler. The fact that they had to actually do something that practical that many times, that is just insane. Oh my God. Before I catch another point here real quick, I want to make sure I get some of the comments so I don't ignore our friends here. So one comment said, could you imagine Allison Hannigan as MJ?
Oh,
mean,
wow.
It would have been a different.
That's not a bad choice. I had a huge crush
She
on
would have
her.
been a better ultimate, like an ultimate Spider-Man line MJ. I feel like because the ultimate Spider-Man, like MJ, was a little bit more goofier, and she wasn't like the popular kid. So I feel like that would actually work well in that regard.
Ooh, I like that. Who said that? Who said that?
Be really great.
Well, I actually just got a notification generally from Nom Talk chat. I will go ahead and get clarity on that in a second or two. And it's clarified. It was actually the woman, the myth, the legend, producer Steph that made that comment. Steph also said here, hey, lines from the movie. Hey, Parker, remember that time in science camp when you were bit by a spider? Yeah, I remember.
One time at science.
See, a perfect ultimate MJ.
Oh my God.
That one time
Eva, our friend here, said I just saw James as eye candy in the movie for my teen years. Followed up by Joe I always screw up his last name. Manganiello. Thank you.
What was that, Joe?
1 second here. It's something about that. Couldn't believe he was Flash until years later. Let's see here. Cue ball 197740 says I could picture Allison Hannigan as MJ. Let's see what else we have here. Also, Allison was my crush from American Pie, so there's a lot of good.
I think she was a lot of people's crush. Yeah. They're from Buffy.
Oh God, that's also a good point. God, I remember Buffy. Good times. So let's go ahead and talk about. So obviously we had. Copy. Thank you. So also in here, let's go ahead and talk about in regards to expectations, because I understand that like we had a lot of fans of the film. I had a lot of fans of the actual comic. But Kenji, so your expectations actually seeing the film then and seeing the film now, do they pretty equivalent? And if so, why?
Well, you see, when I was a kid, when I first watched it, I still love it. You know, that the love for it still hasn't died. It was the things that I was nitpicky about, like, oh, I don't like that this Spider-Man has weird hairs coming out of his fingertips. I don't like that he has organic webbing. I don't like that he kind of looks a little bit older, or I don't like, this, that, and the other. Like I don't like that the Green Goblin's in a suit of armor. But like ultimately, like I'm looking back on it now, and it's like I still love the movie. And yeah, the gripes that I had were, are still, valid gripes to have, but they used it so well for the new No Way Home. Like all those things that I ended up having issues with kind of ended up being used as like plot points. And I'm like, well, shit, now I can't hate it now, can I? Like I'm not supposed to hate it because now it's a plot device, but still, like with that being
Kenji,
said,
Kenji, you had to hold that pose like you were doing, like keeping your arms out, because Q was like, hey, I noticed that Kenji looks like he's been working out. Like, no, you had to hold up right there. There you go. There you go. All right. I had to insert that in there, the comment over there. I had to make sure. Okay. I'm getting a little self-conscious. Chill out. Okay. Don't chill out. All the love, please. You're good.
But yeah, ultimately, I think like it's like my love for it's still the same. I love it regardless. Like the gripes that I have are still there, but they're now. It's like a parent looking fondly back on the nightmare child that they had before, but then they get to see like the amazing person that they've become. They're like, it's like,
okay.
You used to be such a little shit.
You really gave me a pain in the ass when you were doing this, but I see you now, and I'm really proud of you. I look back on it, but
Right on.
That's the best analogy I can come up with.
No, dude. Funny but good. There's nothing wrong with that. You're good. Carla. Expectations of the film when you first saw it and compared to now, are they equivalent? Comparison? More or less? Explain.
So when I first watched it, I was small. Do I look like I've been working now? No, I'm kidding. No.
Please.
No. So when I first watched it, it opened a door to superheroes because I wasn't into comics or had no idea what they were. So this definitely opened a door into that universe. And as I grew up, I fell in love with other characters, and so as I watch this movie now, it holds up, but now I don't see it as a amazement. I see it as like, oh, it makes me laugh. It makes me feel giggly, like, oh my God, that's stupid, or oh my God. You know, it's more of that as opposed to cool, you know. But all love. It holds up, and in No Way Home, it kind of rounds everything. Because if there was a plot hole, they did well in covering that very nicely. And because you know, I don't think the second one is better. I do enjoy it. I think that holds up even better. But and the third one, oh, don't even get me started on it. I have issues.
Hey,
That is the
I do
unwanted
like the
child.
third one. I'm sorry.
That's how Kenji was talking about that shit child. That's how I feel about the third one.
The shit child.
The shit child. That's how I feel with No Way Home. Like, oh, you're like, oh, I can't hate it now. But you know, no, it's from there to now. Admiration to both, and I'm gonna keep watching it. That's it.
Right on. Excellent. Joe, before I go into your and I comments real quick, I'm gonna go hop into the comments real quick here. Q did a little winky face. Is that, oh, Kenji, it must be the suit. Wink. Puma does cosplay, hopped in the room.
It's not the suit.
It is. It has muscles painted on.
Oh man.
Airbrushing.
You just see me without the shirt. I'm awesome.
All love. We're gonna hop back in the comment section real quick. The woman, the myth, the legend. Puma does cosplay. Hello. She says, "Oh my God, I made it." Kenji and Eva mentions, I love that the suit was in color, not black, like in X-Men movies. And I hear that the suit was stolen while filming. Ooh, that's
the Spider-Man suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. Not just one, like at least two of the suits walked offset.
Well, I mean,
that's. But
I would take one.
It's like, oh look,
Joe,
in my thing.
Steve.
Oh, by the way, Q-Ball mentions he is not mean. He is saying that you look badass in the suit. So Q made a comment kind of just in general. So really quick though, we're gonna hop back into this right here. Expectations, Joe, when you saw the film and now are they the same? Yeah.
I had high hopes. I don't know about expectations because nothing had ever really been done like that before, where they were, you know, trying to adapt Spider-Man seriously. I mean, there was the old TV show that was garbage, not the animated one. The animated one was great. Yeah. There was an old stupid ass. I don't know if anybody ever saw it. I'm old, so it was like late 70s, early 80s.
Oh.
Where like the guy on the wire like climbed up the building. It was horrible. It was horrible. But anyway, there had never been an attempt at a genuine adaptation for Spider-Man, so I had high hopes because he was my favorite. I don't know what I actually expected. I was pleased when I saw it, except for, you know, the nitpicks like Kenji has with the Green Goblin in the suit of armor, was, you know, the organic webbing. I know why they did that. It was for story purposes and for effects. It made it a lot easier. But looking back on it, having seen multiple other iterations of Spider-Man since then, I've realized that maybe I didn't appreciate it enough when I first saw it. And I do really like Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was a good Spider-Man. It's the same thing that Kenji said. He wasn't a good Peter Parker. He was too cool. He's riding a skateboard. He's popular. That's not Peter Parker. Peter Parker is not that guy. You know?
I would never believe it.
No, Tom Holland's great. He's a good Peter Parker. He's a good Spider-Man. The suit blows. Spider-Man does not have an Iron Man suit. I'm hoping that the new movie, the way they left him at the end of No Way Home, where he's poor, he's just putting on a cloth suit again.
Joe.
I'm hoping. What?
I get it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
get it. I'm with you.
Seriously.
I'm Team Joe.
And that's where they left him at the end of No Way Home. They left him broke, friendless. You know, he's going to be a struggling photographer now, trying to sell his pictures and make money. That's who Spider-Man's supposed to be. You know, and I'm really hopeful. Well, we're not talking about that one, but yeah, looking back, I really did. I do have a new appreciation for the first Spider-Man movie, having seen the different ways they could kind of mess it up since then.
Okay, right on. I'm sorry. I don't mean to like pause when you guys say something and just listen to you guys. It's very interesting because like coming from comic book fans, people having connections, nostalgia, people actually can, actually currently cosplaying as Spider-Man. So, and then me, I just come into it, and expectations, to be honest with you, there was nothing there. As a kid, or I say as a teenager, being introduced to my first Marvel movie, I was like, all right, so what's a superhero movie supposed to look like? Because everything else has been animated, from Batman the animated series to Justice League, Justice for everything. Just watching things all being cartoons, and then actually this being the first live action film, I was like, this is pretty badass. So my expectations were pretty low at that time, being to what they are now. The crazy thing is that it still holds true for me. The reason why it still holds true for me is I have not seen a couple of additional films that I'm waiting to see. So I've been I appreciate you guys have been very passionate and yet not spoiling certain things for me. So I'm very hyped about the secret things I won't admit on here right now. However, as in regards to, let's say, who my Spider-Man is, it's Toby. I can't, and my problem is that I wanted to go ahead and talk about Tom Holland, talk about the others and so forth. And there's no bad things about those individuals who play Spider-Man in my opinion. But growing up in my teenage years into adulthood, the film is still holding true. I think, to me, I kind of assume of puberty, just development, watching the film, the way it was delivered, not the concept that it was based off of a kid going into pubescent years, but the fact that it was actually like development of the film. I was like, puberty. And I just thought that it still in a sense was like, all right, a little weird, a little creepy here and there, but it had to happen that way. It just had to happen to be what he is now. So that's going to be my opinion of that, per se. But our time's getting a little short here, but I want to make sure we touch base with all you guys and where we can reach you. And I thank you guys for actually being guests on the show today. It means a lot every time you guys show up. You bring so much to the table, and I appreciate it. So Kenji, where can we find you and your socials, my friend?
Well, you can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Kenjinator, which is KENJINATOR. On TikTok, you'll find me doing a lot of impressions, celebrity impressions. Instagram is mostly video game and cosplay stuff. And on Twitch, I do D&D stuff on Sundays with my father. I am at the Kenjinator on Twitch, but my father's campaign is at KDNLA. We do it every Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific.
Heck yeah. Fantastic. All right, Joe, where can we reach at your socials, my friend?
My Instagram is badmojo_art. That's where most of my stuff is. I do have a TikTok. It's pretty cool too. Pretty funny. It's the same thing, at badmojo_art. My Instagram, mainly cosplay, the fan film stuff we do with NerdBot, my artwork, my paint stuff.
Your artwork's badass, by the way.
What,
Thank you very
Joe?
much. This guy is a freaking.
Yeah,
own
check
it.
it
It's
out.
great. Heck yeah, definitely. All right, Carla, where we can reach you at your socials, my friend?
Just Instagram and Twitter, I guess. My Instagram's pretty like space content. I'm very inspired.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, look at that! I don't do art like that, but there's I sometimes cosplay. I play D&D. I talk about space, so I talk about that on Instagram.
Awesome
That's
space.
about it. I don't have a TikTok because I guess once I get it, I feel like that's it. You guys won't ever see me again. Because I'll be like on it nonstop. But,
nonstop.
The Instagram is Carla Isabel 38.
Excellent. Heck yeah. Well, you can reach me at IAMCOWIE. That is I am Cowie. It's my Instagram account. Acting, comedic, lip sync, you name it, have fun. Just account I'm being a goof on. Have fun with that. But real quick here, guys, just remember that you could always listen to us in a podcast format. If you missed our live streams, definitely touch base with us. You can listen the next day on Google Podcast, Spotify, or where you get your podcasts in general as well. And before I miss here, I don't want to mess up Joe's fantastic painting, dude. That thing's hanging on the back wall. I freaking love it.
Glad I found it at home. I've had that one for a long time.
I love it. We
By the
love
way,
it.
Joe, I
And
can't believe you've been hiding that pain behind you this entire time.
Oh,
Just
T'Challa?
and
Just
I'm
like chilling behind me.
Are you serious? This should have been
Casually.
I can't believe you've been
Oh,
hiding that
this
whole
I
time.
drew this in 5 minutes. Are you kidding?
well, Joe we like his work. We got a few things that we are a big fan of. But I'm sorry, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook as well. Here on Twitch, all our platforms are at Nom Talk Network. Thank you, producer Steph. You are amazing as usual. So thank you for being our foundation. We always love and miss you. Tune in. Tune into our next show, please. Where we will always discuss all the fun things by having some great noms. And so until then, I'm your host, Alejandro. Please tune in, and I will be hosting tomorrow as well. So I'll see you guys soon. Guys, have a great one. Once again, guys, thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Oh yeah, anytime, man.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Ryan.